Today we're looking at Chapter 27, Section 1, Struggle in Latin America in the post-World War I era as far as nationalist movements that are taking place globally. That being said, our first vocabulary word is haciendas. Please define, Ms. Robinson.
Large plantations controlled by the land-owning elite.
Elite, very good.
Elite.
Nationalization, Ms. Sackett.
A strong feeling of pride and a devotion in one's country.
Okay, what's another way that nationalization can take place? Rudd?
Government takeover of natural resources.
Very good. So we could either have that love and adoration for your own culture, or the government, in a sense, could nationalize everything we have here, specifically natural resources, because that's a huge idea, as with any industrializing power, the natural resources. Economic nationalism. Lily?
Emphasis on home control of the economy.
Very good. Home control meaning who's not in charge at this rate?
Foreign nations.
Foreign nations. We don't want someone in Europe controlling what we have going on in Mexico or any other country that we're analyzing. Excellent. Cultural nationalism. Ms. Draper?
Pride in the culture of one's country.
Very good. Culture in one's country, or pride in your own culture. Now again, that's, like I said, you guys can either take exceptional pride in that you're an American, or if you have Irish heritage or French heritage, you could take exceptional pride in your culture. Okay? Excellent. Good neighbor policy. Ms. Whiteman.
The United States pledging to lessen its interference in the affairs of Latin America.
Very good. Basically, like State Farm, they're going to be a good neighbor and not intervene unless absolutely necessary. Okay? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Like a good neighbor, the United States will be there. Now, one thing with this, you have to understand, this is all driven by money. Okay? In that, if something is going on in that country, in Mexico or any other Latin American nation, that is potentially going to cost the U.S. money, either they're in a revolution and that's going to stop trade with us, or they're at war with another European country and that's going to stop trade with us, the United States will step in and try to solve that issue for them so American businesses can maintain profit margins. Does that make sense? It's not always positive, but it is whatever is most beneficial for the United States. That's the big idea of the good neighbor policy. Other than that, if everything's great, no reason to be involved. Excellent. Notes, the Mexican Revolution. What are these groups seeking with this, is how this is to be approached. So rural peasants. Sully?
They wanted a better life and they wanted land.
Very good. Okay? Land and better lives. Basically, they don't have a whole lot going for them. Opportunity's not there. Land is all but controlled by really 3 to 5 people in Mexico. They're looking for opportunity. Urban workers. Mr. Schultz.
Better wages and better work conditions.
Absolutely. Wages and conditions. Great job. Ultimately, with working conditions, we're concerned with what? Really boils down to one word here.
Factories?
Not factories. Within the factories, you want to go in there and not be fearful of getting hurt, right?
Safety.
Safety. Very good. Okay. Okay. Urban middle class. Miss Sandy?
Wanted a democracy.
Democracy or a democratic government. Very good. Okay, so these are the people that have been working for some time and have a decent amount of money, but they're also seeking rights. Okay, so they're not necessarily struggling economically, but they also want to be able to participate in government. They want to be part of the decision-making process that we all have here in the United States under our republic. Okay? We have an elected body that you all put into office when you're able to vote. That's what they want. So they don't want what type of government?
Republic?
No, they do want a republic. They don't want this.
Nationalist?
No, say it, Kaufman?
Dictatorship.
Dictatorship. Very good. We do not want that, because that's currently what we have. You're not able to participate in government at the time, currently we being Mexicans. They don't have a lot going for them. They want to be able to participate. Elites. Miss Rady.
Bring
reassemble the power of foreign companies.
Okay, so they want basically to control what we have going on and kick those foreign companies out. Very good. So they control over resources owned by foreign nations, meaning over in Europe. Okay, we do not want them involved. We want to be able to control our own resources to drive our own economy. That's where the economic nationalization takes place. Excellent job. Any questions thus far? So you can see how all across the spectrum in Mexico, not a lot of positives going for them. From the poorest of the poor to even the elites, the people with all of the wealth. Okay, we don't have a lot of great things going for us. Continuing on. What were the main provisions of the Constitution of 1917? Ms. Vinton.
Land, religion, and labor.
Good. Land, religion, and labor. Okay? Land reform, labor protection, and then stronger government control over the economy. Meaning we need to pull church lands out of the picture here. Because the church in Mexico is what church? Alex?
The Anglican Church?
Not the Anglican. The Anglican Church separated away from this. What church?
Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholic. Very good.
Wow, that was a guess.
Okay? Why do you think land distribution was such a key issue? Kaufman.
More land equals more power involved.
Absolutely. But one thing you guys got to understand under Diaz's rule, there's a chart in your book as well that you can look at. I think it's on like 864-ish. Okay? During those rules, those who held land held power. And if we can distribute that land, we also distribute the power, which is democratizing the government. And that's the ultimate goal here. Okay? A way to get greater opportunity. Any questions thus far? Before we translate on to objectives.
There's a whole other section.
Yeah. Okay. How do Latin Americans express nationalism economically? Ms. Reedy.
They were determined to develop their own industry so they wouldn't have to buy so much products from other countries.
Very good. Okay. Trying to grow domestic industry and nationalizing existing foreign. So growing domestic industry, you buy Mexican. Since we're in Mexico right now as far as study, you want to write that down. Buy Mexican. Or for us, buy American. Okay. Nationalizing existing foreign industry. Become Mexican is a way to understand that. As far as what is being controlled by overseas companies. We want everything to be pro-Mexican as far as our pro-Mexico as far as what we're looking at as far as economics. How did political and cultural nationalism grow in Latin America? Mr. Schultz.
The Great Depression, it triggered political changes in Latin America, and then that's all I had.
Good. No, and what we have here, as far as the rejecting political ideas and cultural influences, is because we watched them fail, like Mr. Schultz said, with the Great Depression. Okay, so make sure you have that down. Great Depression. Which obviously, are you guys familiar with that? The Great Depression?
Yeah.
Basically, the economic fallout in the 1930s in the United States and many European nations, ultimately giving rise to dictatorships and authoritarian forms of government because they have an example. Well, the United States, look at how powerful they were after World War I, and their economy collapses entirely. That's your future unless. Okay? And that's why we're going to drive away from that. More indigenous Latin American ideas, meaning pride in the culture that's existed in that area for thousands of years. The Aztecs, the Mayas, the Olmecs. Okay? Pride in that cultural heritage that these people already have, rather than just pushing forward in the full embellishment of Europe. Okay? Take pride in who you are as a person, as a culture. That being said, did the good neighbor policy support or undermine nationalism in Latin America? That's the United States' attempt to be involved, yet to a certain extent. Mr. Schultz?
They supported and strengthened it, and it pledged to lessen its interference in the affairs of Latin American countries.
Very good. They're only going to step in if they absolutely need to. So it supported all of their initiatives entirely. Okay, take pride in your own culture. Take pride in this, that, and the other thing. Democratize your society, absolutely. The United States will become involved if there's an issue, and that's it. Like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. America's there. Okay? Great job. Objectives. Explain why revolution erupted in Mexico in 1910. Ms. Donahue.
The government oppressed certain groups, and the government had power over almost everything, and also the dictator had a lot of population in desperate poverty.
Good. Okay, government's oppressing people, like we started the section with, from the poorest of the poor, so they have from peasants to elite. All is the big idea there. All of the sectors of Mexico are being oppressed in one way or another. Widespread poverty. People are struggling to survive, and the government's not doing really anything about it because dictator Porfirio Diaz is in charge, and whatever he says goes. If he doesn't care about famine that's starting to spread across this country, then he doesn't do anything about it. Now, another thing you guys got to understand with a dictator who's in power, one of their goals is to keep their population weak and needy on the government because they will always need them. It's a key principle in The Prince by Machiavelli. How do you maintain power? By keeping your people impoverished. If they're struggling to survive, they can never stage a revolution, which is what Mexico's doing. Identify the effects of the Mexican Revolution. Welch.
Cultural nationalism, writers, thinkers, and artists took pride in one's culture. Political nationalism, people lost faith in government and demanded democracy. And economic nationalism, developed their own factories and rejected European influence.
Good. Okay, so you have cultural nationalism, pride in your own culture. Pride in the culture that's existed there for millennia. Like you said, the Aztecs, the Olmecs, etc., etc. We have political nationalism, the rise of democracy. Economic nationalism, pro-Mexican, no Europe. Yeah, that's the big idea there. Wonderful. Describe how nationalism grew in Latin America. Robinson.
Increase domestic industry and naturalize the existing foreign industry.
Okay. Nationalized industry. What else can we have here? Harmon?
U.S. pledged to stop interfering in Latin American countries, the good neighbor policy.
Very good. Anything else we could have here? How about art and culture? Okay. So we need another thing you got, because these two objectives are pretty close to each other. Constant emphasis on your culture. Any questions before we review this in a couple seconds? Excellent. I'll show you guys your assignments. This is what we have going on. You'll get your packet here in a little bit as far as this one. Just the first worksheet. 27.2 PR, as always, just define the terms at 858. And then 3 through 6 as it appears in the book.